Aloha! Welcome everybody to today's episode of Omens. This is going to be a special episode of Omens. Normally I go over the headlines and stuff, but today we're going to really focus. And we're going to focus on one particular omen. And we're going to take a look at the implications of that omen and how it reaches out and creates and touches these other omens of the apocalypse, which are signs that tell us how close a reset is to where we are today, right? Welcome to my channel everybody. I often get told that I look much younger than I actually am. Oftentimes people think I'm in my early 30s or sometimes my late 20s if my beard is shaven. As some of you know, because I haven't always had a beard. And I take it as a compliment, and I love that because I feel way younger than I actually am. I'm 45. But I tend to, hear from others that I look much younger than that. And many of you probably feel much younger than you actually are. So this is an omen. And we're going to take a look at why it's important. There have been people recently, in the past few years, across the internet, that have looked back over old pictures of people from the 60s, the 70s, the 50s, and they started to notice that the younger people are looking much older than they should look. They look much older than younger people today look. So that's what what we're going to take a look at is what's going on in the world today. What's happening with humans. And I'm putting forth a few different theories today as to why this is actually happening. I'm not going to dismiss it. Like people like Vsauce and some other people would just say, oh, well, it's because of sunscreen. Because of they didn't have sunscreen in the 60s. All right, well, I'm not going to dismiss this. I'm going to give you a viable, actual, rational, and reasonable explanation. And I'm going to also put forth a theory that this is an omen of an upcoming apocalypse. It's a huge omen. As a matter of fact, it's prophetic. It's not just prophetic within the realm of Christianity, but many different religions across time have mentioned this specifically. People not living as long as they used to, and people dying much younger than they should be. This is a prophecy, and we're going to take a look at those prophecies here in a bit. These are just some examples that I've put up on the screen for everyone to take a look at. Don Knotts, this is him at 57, psych. He was just actually 38 in this picture. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these examples, okay? This guy's 36 years old. Inconceivable that he's 36 years old. He doesn't look like that. It looks like he's 54 or something, right? This guy right here, 29 years old. This football player at the time that this picture was taken. Now, I also want to put this out there. I have not verified or fact-checked any of these pictures or anything. I'm just going off of my intuition, so some may be accurate, some may not be. This one is a 16-year-old back in 1934, Australia's youngest radio announcer. This is somebody's grandfather who was 16 years old, and they colorized the image. But this is a 16-year-old boy right here. This one is somebody's grandmother, aged 13 years old in this particular photograph. Now, it's very interesting to see the comparison. For example, the picture on the left is this girl's mother at the same exact age as she was on the right, which is 19. But the mother on the left looks like she's, in her 30s or something. Here's another one. This one is somebody's mom at 16 years old. Okay. Let's take a look at some more of these here. This one is someone's grandmother at 24 back in 1934, dancing with their grandfather. This one right here is someone's grandfather when he joined the Navy in 1942. He was only 16 years old at the time of this picture. I'd say he looks like he's in his late 20s, possibly even 30. This one's Jamie Foxx at 18 years old. He looks like a 27-year-old or 28-year-old or something, or, maybe even his 30s or something, but he looks way, way older. Liz Taylor is 17 in this picture. She definitely does not look 17 in this picture. She looks much older than 17. Here's a comparison between a guy on the left who's 27 at the time of the photo and the guy on the right, 27 at the time of the photo, soccer players or football players. You guys might remember this guy from Cheers, 34-year-old man in 1983 versus a 34-year-old man today, right? They look older. This one is somebody's parents when they were around 23 years old. And they definitely don't appear to be 23 years old. Mr. Miyagi, when he was Mr. Miyagi, was 52 in 1984. Daniel-san, the Karate Kid, this is him at 57, right? Wilford Brimley, you guys remember him from Cocoon? This is him at 50, and Tom Cruise at 56. Tom Cruise looks much younger than Wilford Brimley does when he was younger than Tom Cruise. Here's a 20-year-old then versus a 20-year-old now. Times are changing. Lots of things in this world are changing. That's why we talk about these omens. Here's somebody at 21 years old, someone's father, and Justin Bieber at 21. Justin Bieber looks like he's about 14. This is somebody's grandmother at 16 years old. They look more mature as well. Not just like they look older, but they carry with them a sense of maturity, like they have experience, like life experience. 18 years old then versus 18 years old now. Here's 17 years old then versus 17 years old now. Do you see? It's like the little babies and children have just been given an older age. My theory, I believe, explains this pretty well. 21, 50, 45, 17, 23, and under 50 over here. You guys might remember this show. The actor was 47 in the All in the Family. When Woody Harrelson played him, he was actually 10 years older. Here's a soccer player that was only 24 years old back in 1974. Larry Bird. I've always thought this about Larry Bird. In his 60s? Nope. Try 35. Okay? He looks like an old man. He looks like he's, shouldn't even have teeth or something. Richie Valens was 17 when he died in a plane crash. He looks like he's about 35. This one's funny. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Martin was 42 and Candy was 37. I'm older than both of them. Let me go back to that one, okay? Me, right now, I'm older than both of these guys were at the time that this movie came out. And many people are just, like myself, we're just mind blown that is even possible. Whitman Mayo in Sanford & Son was in his 40s. He looks like a 67-year-old man, in my opinion, okay? This is all going to be based on people's perspectives, of course. John Travolta is 3 years younger in this picture than Abe Vigoda was when he played his grandfather in Look Who's Talking. John Dillinger was 31 when he died. He looks like he's about 52 or something right here. I would just guess. I'm no expert on guessing how old people are or anything, but it's just intuition. Sparky Anderson. See this guy over here? Hold on, let me make this bigger. See this dude with the white hair, all balding and just wrinkly and stuff? That guy's name is Sparky Anderson. He's 42, but he looks like he's 75. This guy right here. We also have Otis Redding. He was 26 years old when he died, right? Otis Redding looks like he's way older than 26 years old. Here's The Rock. On the left, his yearbook photo at 16. He looks like a grown man. Here he is in his 40s, looking younger, right? 43 years old. The guy on the left over here, 45 years old. This guy's as old as I am. I don't know. He's old. He's as old as I am. So here's a trend that we're seeing. We look back at some older pictures. And of course, there's always anomalies. There's always exceptions to these things. But in general, many people across the world, including myself, are able to look back at older pictures of people and see something's amiss. Something's off. So let me go ahead and take this down, and we're going to do some screen sharing on some websites here. And when we get about halfway through this next part, I'm going to give out some channel memberships to random people who are in the chat today, just to show my appreciation, for coming and checking out my channel and my work and stuff. All right, let me get this taken down real quick. Is it this one? Yes. All right, cool. All right, cool. We'll come back to the channel memberships in a second. So here's a woman from the show Maude, or the character Maude, right? She was 44. So let's just take me, for example, and Maude, all right? Maude's 44 in this picture. I remember watching this when I was a kid. She strikes me as somebody who would be in her 60s, okay? Oftentimes about 20 years They look about 20 years older than they should. I'm 45. You see what I mean? Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or anything, but I will explain to you why these things are so. Now let's take a look at something interesting. Let's take a look at the numbers. Okay. There's something called, what do they call them? Centenarians. A centenarian is somebody who gets past 100 years old. As a matter of fact, I believe if you live in the UK, you get like some sort of letter from the Queen or the King or somebody congratulating you on making it past 100. Why is that? Well, I believe, and we'll come back to this, that people used to live much longer. This is reflected, obviously, all throughout various religious scriptures and writings and stuff, that people lived to, hundreds of years going back into antiquity, especially when you look at the book of Genesis and stuff, right? If you lived, let's say people lived to be 1,000 years old. Let's take Adam, for example. He lived to be close to 1,000 years old. 10 years old, that would be like, that would be like your bar mitzvah, right? I mean, not 10, 100. 100 years old would be like you're leaving childhood, basically. So now it makes sense why people get congratulated by royalty who are basically the lineage of these survivors of prior apocalyptic cycles, and their family lived to be hundreds and hundreds of years old. They recognize this. It's a special recognition. It's coming of age, which is 100 years old, which means, comparatively speaking, from today to the way it once was, if you're less than 100 years old, in the eyes of the elven race, in the eyes of the Eternals, in the eyes of, the people that live for hundreds and hundreds of years, you're no longer a child at 100. Now, centenarians are people who have lived past 100. Let's go back in time and see how many of those existed back in, say, the 50s. Over here, and there's different charts. Okay, I like this one. This one says there was about 33,000 people on Earth who were over 100 back in 1950, approximately. Okay, go back into the 20s, and this number goes way down even further. 33,000. Guess how many people are over 100 years old today in the entire Earth? Well, you can see by the chart over here, it just keeps on going up, right? Actually, it doesn't even stop. You can't even see how high up it gets because it cuts it off. Now, this is back in 2020. Okay, see how it says 2010 right there? Well, this chart keeps on going. You can't see it, but it goes all the way up to 2020, all right? So basically, today, there's around 800,000 people on Earth older than 100 years old. Going all the way back to 1950, and just 1950, 33,000. From 33,000 to over 800,000 people on Earth are over 100 years old. That's amazing. And modern academics will be very quick to thank sunscreen, the Joker brand product. They'll say, yeah, well, thanks for the push on sunscreen. People look way younger. They're living longer. Thank you so much to modern medicine, which blows my mind. They're real quick to take, to say that it's them. It's them that's causing us to live longer. I'm going to explain to you why nobody is living longer. Okay. It seems like they are, because look how many people are over 100. I'm going to explain to you by the end of this video, and hopefully you'll understand why people across the world are dying younger and younger, although they're in their hundreds, okay? So this will make sense. Now, here is my theory before I get into the Mayan calendar and its importance to this particular topic. My theory is, and keep in mind I have an alternative cosmology, but it applies to academics' cosmology too, and I'll show you how here in a bit. My theory is that the means by which we keep track of times, the main means, aside from like how it feels, how time is passing, how it feels to you or whatever, the luminaries, the lights in the sky, the stars, the sun, the moon, and so on, that's how we have always kept track of time. That's how we know how much time has passed and what day it is and whatnot, right? I believe that those luminaries have sped up in their transit across the sky. and that they will continue to speed up in their transit across the sky. I also believe that those in the know have made preparations for this speeding up of the luminaries, which equates to the speeding up of time, and other things contribute too, okay? Like exponential degradation or entropy, okay? Those things help us to feel like time is speeding up as well. But let's get back to time speeding up. I believe that those in the know, that they have encouraged the entire world to switch over to digital clocks, and that they're basically updating their clocks and therefore your clocks to match their timekeeping standards. Time has changed across time, okay? Sometimes in large chunks. People don't know what time it is. They don't know what day it is. This is one of the reasons why the apocalypse cannot be predicted. Time changes. Time is not constant, how we perceive it here on Earth, okay? So there's no possible way, there's no likely way, I'll say, or probable way that anybody out there can accurately calculate when the end of the world is going to come. The main thing that we're encouraged to do by wise men throughout history is to read the omens, is to look for and watch out for the signs, to be watchers of the times that we're in, which is why we're talking about omens. Now, if this is true, that the luminaries have sped up, and therefore 1 year today, decades and decades ago, would be more like, to them, it would be like a half of a year. Or 1 year, decades and decades ago, to us would be like a year and a half. Okay? Now, if that's true, that means that the 2012 Mayan calendar end date still applies, because 2012 was not 2012. That's what that means. That means that we're further back than we ought to be. We have sped up the calendar. We have sped up the clocks. We have sped up the time cycle. And so wherever 2012 actually is, you know, if the world is set to end on 2012, let's say that that's correct. Okay, let's say the Mayans just had it. Boom. That means it's still somewhere looming in the distance. Okay, 2012, the real 2012 has not come and gone. Okay. So I find that to be exciting because I'm an apocalyptimist. Let's check this out. In Hindu cosmology, we're currently in the Kali Yuga or Kali Yuga. Okay, they have their different epochs of time. This is basically their calendar of time. The golden age is within the period of time right here called the Satya Yuga. Okay, and this is basically our time cycle from one apocalyptic time to another apocalyptic time. One and then the other. One at the top, one at the bottom. This is the golden age. This is when everything's great. Time is much slower, going way back into the golden age. People experience time much slower. So you can imagine someone in the golden age that's 10 years old, right? 10 cycles of the luminaries going around, but the luminaries went much slower back then. So 10 years old back then could equate to something like 50 or who knows how much more in today's amount of years, right? And then we have the Treta Yuga, which is much shorter. Time is starting to shorten. And then we go down to the Dvarpa Yuga. And then down here where we are today, the Kali Yuga. Kali is the destroyer. Okay, when you get to the midpoint of the Kali Yuga, that's when our apocalyptic cycle happens. Now it says, in Hindu cosmology, the concept of Kali Yuga describes an age where time is said to progressively speed up as the era nears its end. Time speeds up. That's within Hinduism. Let's continue on. Here's something that many people say time and time again, okay? They say, oh, this year went by so fast. This is a joke you might see on the internet. This year went by so fast, I didn't even have time to lose weight. People all across the world recognize that time is going by faster and faster. Don't get me wrong. There are anomalies and exceptions. People can feel like the year went by, you know, very slowly, or that the day dragged on because of circumstances and events that they've gone through. But in general, I've heard personally, this is my experience, many people saying, wow, the years are flying past, the year flies past. And academics will try to say, well, people say that as they're getting older because it just seems like that because, you know, there's so many more responsibilities that they're taking on and there's so many things that are happening and technology and whatnot. No, I don't think so. I believe that people feel time is passing faster because time is passing faster. Okay. That's just my personal opinion. Like I said, we used to go by what they call analog clocks, wind-up clocks and stuff. You can't really mess with that. The government can't mess with that. It keeps track of time mechanically when you wind it up, okay? This is just like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Whenever he says, Ted, don't forget to wind your watch, because if you don't wind this, if you stop using this kind of a clock, you're going to be thrown off, because then you're going to be forced to set this clock according to these clocks, which are based on the internet's time. Okay, and the internet is basically controlled by your world governments. This time is going to be manipulated. And even if you have an analog clock that's like electric or whatnot, like I used to use my stove. I had a clock on my stove. It wasn't connected to the internet or anything, so it didn't update, right? And I watched as time changed. The time on my stove clock was constantly, there was a bigger difference between that clock and my computer clock, for example. And then one day, I was no longer able to use my stove clock because we had a power outage, conveniently, right? So I do suspect that some of these power outages are purposefully done, possibly so that people are forced to reset their clocks and reset their times according to the new standard of time. If you look it up in academics, they'll tell you, oh, it's a mere matter of split seconds or whatever. I don't see evidence for that. In the Bible, let's talk about prophecy. Matthew chapter 24, verse 22 in the King James Version says, and except those days, being those days just prior to the apocalypse, which is, I believe, the days we're living in now, and except those days should be shortened. There should be no flesh that would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Those days will actually physically be shorter than they used to be. Now, like I said, many people might feel that they are or feel that they're not, but now we're talking about prophecy. Let's jump outside of the Bible to an extra biblical book called the Book of Enoch, which is quoted a couple of times in the Bible and used to be considered a part of the canon of the actual Bible before it was, taken out. And we're going to go to chapter 80 within the Book of Enoch and scroll down to verse number 2. In verse number 2, it says, and in the days of sinners. That would be today. We live during what many call the short season or the season of Satan. There's definitely an evil to the air, to the atmosphere, to the energy. There's a lack of energy all over the place. It says, in the days of the sinners, the years shall be shortened. And their seed shall be tardy on their lands and fields, and all things of the earth shall alter, and shall not appear in their time, and the rain shall be kept back, and the heavens shall withhold it. But really, you can see right here, it's to the point. In the days of sinners, in degradation, in times of evil and selfishness and hardship and strangeness and fluctuation, that's how I see the days of the sinners. The years shall be shortened. Well, let's check out another biblical verse from the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words. This is about the Antichrist, right? Or evil, the evil energy in the world today. He shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, times, and... Oh, you can't see it behind me there, but it says the dividing of time. Time, times, and the dividing of time. Time has been divided. Time has been shortened, right? The length of time in a day. Or at the very least, how we keep track of it through the luminaries. Now let's go all the way back. Let's go to the zero religion. The 0 point religion, as I like to think of it. This is called Zoroastrianism or Zoroastrianism, which means the 0 point or the 0 star, the star that's circular in shape up there in the heavens, which I believe is the apex dome, which is a part of the firmament. Now, within Zoroastrianism, it says here, at the end of thy 100th winter, the sun is more unseen and more spotted. The year, month, and day are shorter, and the earth is more barren. So even within Zoroastrianism, it predicts that the years, the month, and the days would shorten. Well, let's look within Islam. Do they have a prophecy about something happening to time and time changing and how we perceive time and time passing? Yes. This is within the hadiths when they're referring to the Prophet Muhammad. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The hour will be established until time passes rapidly." When it talks about the hour with the capital H, that's talking about Judgment Day. That's talking about the day of the Lord. That's talking about the apocalypse. "The hour will not be established until time passes rapidly, such that a year is like a month is like a week is like a day, and a day is like an hour, and an hour is the flicker of a flame." So we've got, lots of different references, prophecies that point this out. The quickening, the shortening of time, the shortening of the days. Even within academics, they're starting to notice, and they're starting to say, well, we better acknowledge this, right? And they do. Different articles that talk about, like I said, I have my own cosmology, but if yours is a spinning Earth cosmology, then this is how they would explain it to you. The Earth is spinning faster because they don't believe that the luminaries actually move across the sky. They believe that the whole world is flying around and spinning around. If that's your belief, this is what they tell you. They're trying to cover all the bases. Why is the Earth spinning faster? The Earth is spinning faster than ever before. The days are getting shorter. This is an AI overview. Whenever I type this in, it says the Earth is spinning faster than ever, which is making the days shorter. This has been observed since 2016. I think it's been observed since much longer before that. And now we get to the point in the presentation where I'm going to give out 5 channel memberships to random people in the chat. I really appreciate that you guys tuned in. I really appreciate that everyone's been sharing my work, checking out my website, and, just spreading the news of my channel and things like that. I've also been posting a lot more on X, right? And I refuse to say, just so you know, I'm always going to call it X. I refuse to do that whole formerly known as garbage or whatever. I've been posting a lot of articles on X. So what I like to do is put a picture up there, and then I'll post an article, like I'll probably do one after the show, and make it all about this particular subject. Just a short few paragraphs on the topic. And I also do have like a Facebook fan page and an Instagram where I'll post different videos and stuff. I try to do different things on each platform. Hey, congratulations to everybody who is picking up some of these free channel memberships right now. I just want to say thank you once again. I really appreciate all the support, everybody. You guys are just the best. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, now we're going to continue on. Here's another article. Why is our Earth rotating faster? Right? So that it has to, on their model of the spinning wobbling glob model, it has to spin faster in order for the days to be flying past, which is actually a quote from Three Body Problem. I don't know if you guys have seen Three Body Problem, but within this series, Three Body Problem, this girl puts her hand down on the ground within this like ancient pyramid, and all the luminaries start moving around really quickly, and they say, "Let the days fly past." This article says Earth is spinning faster than it has in over 50 years. Now, they can't make up their minds on the subject because a week later they'll tell you the Earth is spinning slower than it ever has. But here's another biblical verse. Now, this is about children. Okay, let's get back to the Centenarians, right? All these people, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people across the world are living to be older than 100. Woohoo! That's good news, right? Well, no. I mean, it sounds good on the surface of things, but it's really not. You're getting ripped off, okay? It's kind of like taxes, like how they take out the money before they ever even give it to you. Okay, that's kind of like the same concept. We're all children, comparatively speaking, to how old we used to be, our average lifespans in antiquity. And I know, people have their own opinions about this. People will say, oh no, people only live to be like 25 or 30 because, they didn't have irrigation, or I don't know what people will say, right? But I believe in the old ways. I believe in the old religions and the old norms. Like people used to be much bigger, giants existed, etc., and so on and so forth. So here in the book of Matthew, Jesus says, "Truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Right? So I equate entering the kingdom of heaven less with like a spiritual coupon that lets you get into, the cloudy place where St. Peter and St. Paul are waiting at the pearly gates and stuff, and more like entering into the golden age and surviving the next apocalyptic cycle, or straight up going to paradise and the Garden of Eden at the North Pole, which is what my new book is all about. It's called Return to Hyperborea. But if that's true, we, humanity, the survivors of the next apocalyptic cycle, we have to be like children. This has to happen. This has to occur. Mankind, humankind, has to become like children once again before the apocalypse can happen, right? And that's what we see. That's why I feel like a child. I feel like a kid. And many of you do as well. You might not look it on the outside, but on the inside, you're screaming out, I'm just a kid. Unless you turn or change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven, right? So we're all basically like this. This is how we see everybody. And we broke this down when we watched that movie Red One, okay? This is how immortals or our ancient ancestors probably would see us today. In Isaiah, in the Bible, it says, "No longer will a nursing infant live to be but a few days, or an old man fail to live out his years. For the youth will die at 100 years. And he who fails to reach 100 years old, or a centenarian, will be considered accursed." Right? So let me explain this to you in modern English. What this is saying, it's a prophecy, and it's talking about far off in the future, which is just a reflection of something that's already happened in the past. Isaiah looks into the future, and he says, in that time, far off into the future, people's vitality will be restored so that they live much longer once again. And dying before you reach 100 years old, people will think something is wrong with you, that you're sick, that there's an issue with this poor child that hasn't even, gotten to the age of, the age of transition from being a child into being an adult, right? So basically, this is also saying that people will live to be much older than 100. If you're younger than 100, you'll be considered a child. That means that in the time we live in now, the quickening, the rapid changing of time, the hastening of time, or the shortening of days, that we're all children with basically Benjamin Button disease. Okay, I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, but in this movie, Benjamin Button is born like an elderly person. He's like a little elderly infant, right? And then as he grows and as he accumulates more years, he looks younger and younger and younger. That's what we're going through, I feel, right now, something similar. Here's a clip. Here's a clip from the movie. So in the movie, he's probably, I don't know, like 10 years old or something right here, but he has the face of an old man, right? This reflects back to us our very own reality. This might also help to shed some light on certain religious stories, especially those within Islam and the Bible or the Quran, where certain patriarchs or, forefathers from a long time ago, people have noticed that it's strange that they would have these arranged marriages to people that when we read it today, we would say, wow, they're getting married to somebody who's like 10 years old or whatever. In the Bible, this happens in the Bible. This happens in the Quran. Muhammad, I believe, married a 9-year-old, right? So instantly, in the modern world, people split. And people either try to make an excuse for that and say, oh, well, here's the reason why, but they still see it as a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old in the modern sense of a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old. But if the days were longer, if the years were longer, then being 10 years old thousands of years ago could possibly equate to being like 24. You know what I mean? Or something along those lines. So just something else to think about when it comes to that. This is also mentioned throughout many lyrics to many different musicians, pop songs, all over the place. I like to listen to 21 Pilots. Overcompensate is one of their newest albums, one of their newest songs to come out. And the whole thing is just esoteric secrets that are being handed to you on a silver platter. But this particular portion of their song, they say, "The days feel like a perfect length. I don't need them any longer, but for goodness sake, do the years seem way too short for my soul, corazón." This is so important in this particular song. They sing it twice in a row. The days feel like a perfect length, I don't need them any longer, but for goodness sake, do the years seem way too short for my soul, corazón? Way too short for my soul. Now they sing it in this sort of catchy kind of way where people are paying attention more to the rhythm and more to the beat than they are the actual lyrics. But if they paid attention to the lyrics, they would get something insightful and profound, as I have. Which is the 21 Pilots are acknowledging the changes that are happening in our world, warning people about an upcoming apocalypse, and also giving you some advice on where to go and how to survive and things of that nature, all throughout their latest albums, over the past decade at least. Now, something else. Let's talk about the implications, all right? Let's just suppose this is true. Let's just suppose that the luminaries are moving around faster and therefore we experience time faster. There's going to be implications to that. For example, your natural circadian rhythm over time will be thrown off. The faster the luminaries move, the more you'll notice that your circadian rhythm is off, that your sleep cycle is off, that your energy is off, that your body doesn't seem to know what time of day it is or night or anything. Even it's confused because it might look outside and see the sun, but you feel like you should be sleeping, or vice versa. I've also noticed gigantism being reintroduced into our world. Like teenagers, I see this all of the time. This blows my mind. I'll look around and see just freakishly tall teenagers or even preteens, kids that are like 8 years old, 9 years old, and they're almost as tall as I am. And I'm 6'2", okay? Which I used to think was pretty tall. But now we got all these people getting taller and taller. What's the reason behind this? Well, I believe that pressure within this world is increasing exponentially as gases are being released from within the earth, right? And as the pressure increases, the heat increases. Let's go back to the luminaries. The main luminary that heats up our world is the sun. People call it the sun, okay? If it's true that the sun is moving faster, it stands to reason, and I think it's reasonable, to speculate that the source of the sunlight comes from beyond the firmament, that light, cosmic light from the heavens or whatnot, because we all know heaven is a bright place, right? The cosmic heavenly light passes through the dome of the firmament and it creates a focal point. Now this is more, I'm getting into my own cosmology, and if you have a different one, that's totally okay? But I'm just going to speak from my path at this moment. The light passes through the firmament, or the lens of the heavens, the highest, hardest glass ceiling. It meets at a focal point, which we call the sun, and then redistributes down onto the land in what we call daylight. Whenever the width of the light beyond the firmament gets smaller, then that focuses that light and it creates a brighter, more intense focal point, or a sun, right? What that sun does is it heats up the ocean water. The earth is also heating up from within, but that's another story. It heats up the ocean water, and the ocean water, which is 75% of our world, starts releasing all the oxygen. Because whenever the water heats up, it gets rid of oxygen. And what that means is that the animals within the ocean that breathe that water through gills, they'll start dying off in mass. We should expect to see that. But it also means that oxygen gives us a quick flashback to the great oxidation event. It's an omen of something that happened. It's a reflection of something happened a long time ago, which will happen real quick, real strong right before the end. And what happens whenever our world has an influx of oxygen is everything starts to grow bigger and bigger and bigger right before the end. Another thing that happens is that the sun, the focal point, the luminaries, will go through a color transition or a color spectrum shift. This is how myself and many countless other people across the world remember the sun looking. When we were children, back in the 60s or the 70s, even stretching into the 80s, we remember a yellow sun. People got out a yellow crayon if they wanted to draw stars, or they wanted to draw the moon, or they wanted to draw the sun, because the luminaries were another color. It stands to reason that if the light from beyond is going into flux and it goes too small and it creates a more of a focused light instead of more of a diffuse light, right? That many things would happen. These are the implications. The world will get hotter, more oxygen will be released from the ocean, but the colors of the luminaries themselves will shift. The color spectrum will shift. Warmer light, more diffuse light is along the red spectrum, right? So even going back into antiquity, that wasn't even the color of the sun. That would have blown their minds. The sun was red, and it was almost always depicted as being red in antiquity, okay? But over time, the pressure increases in this world, and the source of light beyond the firmament gets smaller and smaller and smaller, which gives us a color spectrum shift where the sun goes from red to orange to yellow, and then that will bring us into the modern world, right? But if you think about back in the 70s, I don't know how many people, lived during the 70s. I caught just the tail end of it. But you look back at the older pictures and you see a lot of them are just have this yellow tint. The modern world will try to explain to you that, yeah, that's rust. They don't say that's rust. They might as well say that that's rust, okay? But they're saying, oh no, the picture is just getting really old, Yes, there may be a bit of that, but memories don't do that, okay? Many people remember the pictures and the colors and even all the things that people sold, all the different paints and colors that were prime, that were popular back during the time of the 60s and 70s or whatever. They reflected this yellow color. Why? Because we vibed with that sunlight and it painted our world, right? But if you look at the sun today, it's another thing, okay? It is no longer a life-giving, beautiful, ambient, warm, yellow, glowing kind of sunlight. It's a distractingly bright, burning, messed up white sun with a blue corona around it as it transitions into a hotter phase, which is going into the blue spectrum, right? And whenever it gets completely blue, that's when the blue star Kachina shows up and the world ends, as it makes its way to the plaza or the sensor place or the North Pole. I take pictures of the sun all the time. This is pretty much what it looks like in the modern world. Go outside during noon, point your camera straight up at the sun, and this is what people see. There is no longer a yellow sun. Our world is going through changes that, when stretched out over decades, it's like the frog in the pot, where you turn up the temperature of the water that the frog's in, and the frog becomes accustomed to it, and the temperature changes gradual, so it doesn't notice that it's boiling and about to die. That's us. We don't notice these omens, these changes in the world that we live in, so we don't acknowledge that the apocalypse is upon us, right? But when you see the luminaries starting to get brighter and brighter and changing color, especially from this white, we went from a yellow, beautiful, life-giving, like I used to love being out in the sun, but now it's like I can feel the radiation from that thing. Okay, I don't like it any longer. I just try to stay away from the sun. And it's not the sun that's making people age or whatever. There's small contributions from different parts of reality. But look up at the sun. It's white with a blue corona at high noon quite often. Take a picture of it with your camera. See for yourself. The sun is no longer yellow. It's changing. It's getting hotter. It's getting more focused. Look at the moon. When you go out at night. When I was a child, I remember vividly looking at the moon and it had a tint of yellow. That's why people say the moons look like cheese. Cheese, there's people, if you want to draw a piece of cheese, you're going to get out a yellow crayon, okay? Most people are not going to, I know there's white cheese or whatever, but no. People said the moon looked like cheese, all right? Sometimes it said it looked like green cheese. But anyways, that's beside the point. My point is, if you go out under the moonlight, what's happening with the sun is happening with the moon, and is also happening with the stars, okay, and other things as well. There's many different omens that are happening during this modern age where we live in right now. So many that I don't want to get off track. But what's happening with the sun is happening with the moon. The moon used to give diffuse light, which means if you go out under the moonlight and you look down at your shadow, it will just kind of be like a blur, like a blurry shadow. But that no longer happens in the world we live in. In the modern age, you go out in the sunlight or in the moonlight, and the moon will cast a crisp, perfect silhouette. You can make little shadow puppets with your hand using moonlight and stuff. And this is also prophetic. The Bible actually says that in the future, the sun's light will increase sevenfold, and so will the light of the moon. So these are some different apocalyptic omens to look out for. People getting older, people aging faster, and I like to encourage people to think about all of the implications, right? What dominoes does this touch, if it's true? If there's any reality behind what we're discussing, if there's any reality behind what we're supposing, right? What are the implications? It makes sense to me that people looked older when they were actually younger in yesteryear because their days were longer. They had more time in the day. We don't have more time in our day. Our time is short. And when time is short, that means the apocalypse is upon us. If you enjoy this type of subject matter, check out my website, JayDreamerZ.com. I also have a couple of books on there and some merch and stuff. I'm going to actually release some pictures and start selling some sweet new mini posters that I got. I don't have them available right now, but go check those out because I think that you'll enjoy those. I look forward to reading the chat. I haven't really read the chat during this whole presentation. I'll wait for it to upload, and I'm going to go over the chat and see what you guys are saying in the comments section and in the chat. And also, I just want to say this. Normally, I will play the credits at the end of each one of my little episodes, but I'm having some sort of a subscription problem with the software that I use to make the credits, so I'm working on getting that fixed up. There won't be a brand new credits, so instead what I decided to do is give shout-outs to all the people who have joined or got a channel membership within the last 30 days. So I want to say thank you so much to the following people. We got Robin Landry, Esoterica, Dan Safety, Silent Shadow 6, USMC 8541. We got, hold on, let me take my phone off of the charger here. One sec. We got Vittorio Cleaton de Lima, Sergio Muccino, Stay Cozy with Autumn Vibes. I like that name. Brandy Good, thank you. The Ancient Path, Beverly Pyron, Christine Gant, Katrina, Ghost Ninja, Doc One Shot, Peace in the Present. And actually, I think it went back a little too far. But those are all the people who have joined as brand new members in the past month or two. All right, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you. Also, a huge thank you to all the people who have been channel members or subscribers or just people that share my work. I really appreciate it. I don't want to talk too much at the end of the presentation, so I'm going to take off. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
In a time when an ancient cataclysm is about to return, one book holds the key to unlocking the biggest secret in all of history. JayDreamerZ presents Ancient Oblivion, the Plasma Apocalypse. Study it, and you'll discover the very real details behind the reoccurring event that resets civilizations and reshapes the entire world. Bridging the gap between fiction and fact, this book is a must-have for all truth seekers. Then in his second book, you'll learn about the one place of refuge from this world storm. You'll explore the ends of the earth, find the fountain of youth, and envision yourself enveloped in the vapor canopy. In Ancient Oblivion, Return to Hyperborea. Available now. Order direct from JayDreamerZ and receive your very own autographed copy. Go to JayDreamerZ.com for more information on our Ancient Oblivion and the Plasma Apocalypse, and sign up for a free 24-hour cram session with a complimentary day pass. The end is near, so order now before it's too late.
Oh, nobody could hear me. Okay, my bad. I was not looking at the chat. Okay, that's my bad. I would like to give a summary. Okay, thank you guys. You guys are great. Thank you. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you. So I realized as I was playing my outro ad or whatever that I didn't read this summary. Let me go ahead and summarize. Geez, this is how you know I'm a real person, as opposed to, you know what I mean. Anyways, let me finish this up correctly. Okay. Excuse me. All right. Here's the summary of today's presentation. To everyone, a little bonus. The summary is the way that we keep track of the luminaries or time has sped up. The luminaries in the sky have sped up. The actual amount of time in a day, and therefore a year, used to be much longer. And this means, for example, decades ago, 1 year passing in today's timekeeping would be closer to a year and a half passing. Modern years are shorter in the actual passing of time, so we can experience more years, leading to a rise in centenarians and younger-looking people. This is a key prophecy and an omen of the apocalypse across many religions, cultures, and belief systems across time. What are the implications? The implications are younger people in antiquity may have actually been much older physically. This trend will continue. Modern medicine and sunscreen will be applauded as keeping people looking young, when in reality, they're still young and dying even younger than they used to. If the luminaries are speeding up in their circuits across our plane of existence, due to their source of light from the firmament being more focused, we would expect to see them getting brighter and shifting into the white/blue spectrum from what they once were, which is a yellow spectrum. We do see this. The sun is white/blue. The moon is white with bluish light, like moonlight is actually blue, if you take a look at it. The stars are no longer slightly yellow. One color spectrum, or our color spectrum, is shifting. If the sun is getting more white/blue, then we should see a correlating increase in the amount of heat that it produces, i.e. a hotter atmosphere, hotter temperatures, and more extreme weather. We do. If it gets hotter, the ocean should release more oxygen, contributing to growth spurts in life on the surface and death in the ocean. We do see that. If the oceans give up oxygen, we should see an increase in deaths in marine life, who depend upon oxygen in the water, and a corresponding increase in the amount of bacteria and algae that's in the ocean, which would change the water from blue to green. We do. This is how I personally keep track. I'm just sharing my methods of my madness with you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you all so much for letting me know that I messed up on the audio and I muted myself. But it's all in good fun. I like to have fun while researching the apocalypse. Like I said, I'm an apocalyptimist. I think it's a good thing. I can't wait. Okay. So I wanted to share this omen with you guys. I feel this is very important. I can't wait to go over your comments. I'm gonna wrap things up now and say my final aloha for today, so that I can get the chat uploaded, because I'm curious to see what you guys have been saying. All right, cool. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.